In the last video, we finished with something like this. Now what we want to do is start actually doing the assignment. So there's two things that you want to be aware of or to use as a reference. First of all, I make a grade sheet and a handout combination available to you and a website to use as an example. First, let's start with finding the handout, the grade sheet. I probably gave you a physical copy of it. If you lost it, or if not, you can always go to the Blackboard for the class. Now, don't follow this exactly because your class Blackboard, will obviously be a different address and all that. But the main idea would be that you get to your Blackboard page, and then I will always have it inside of content. So if you go to content, you download the latest, or not the latest, but your version of this doc. In other words, it's going to change from class to class. And what's important about that fact is if you look at the one that I have here that I'm working on, this is the website that it tells you to go to. This may be different on yours. So the important thing is that you have your grade sheet in front of you. I'll refer back to this every now and then. But if this is not looking the same on yours, then use whatever on yours. Right now it is the end of 2015. And this happens to be the website that I'm using as an example. This free hosting website will shut these sites down and I'll lose my name if I go a couple months without going on there, which typically happens. So this may be different. All right. So whatever it is, copy it and then go ahead and paste it in your URL. Or I'm sorry, your address. Paste the URL in your address box and then it will take you to the example site. So this is kind of what you're going for, not kind of, almost exactly. I mean, your picture will replace mine and then some content here will be your own wording. You will have a web knowledge page, which just tells us a little bit about what you know right now. And you'll have a favorites website page where you list a few sites that you like. Okay, so let's get to work with that. We'll go back to Dreamweaver and cover some real basic stuff first and then go to the more specific things. Now I'm going to bring back out here this one here. So first thing we want to talk about is the king of all HTML tags. So let's get rid of all this stuff in here. So the first, it's not always the first tag you see, but it's the first tag that basically starts the structure of your website is the HTML tag. And that basically tells the browser that you're reading an HTML file, because a lot of websites have CSS files in them, JavaScript files, so this one just basically tells the browser, that machine that you're looking at your website on, or the software that you're looking at the website through, that you are working on an HTML page. Now remember, whenever you start a tag, what are you going to do? You're going to close it right away. So there's your closing tag. Now, we're getting introduced already here to, I'm just refreshing this so you can see there's nothing here with just these HTML tags. But now I have to introduce you to a new topic right off the bat, which is the topic of nested tags. I'm going to go over here to the W3 schools under the HTML tutorial and go to elements. And it tells you that an element is basically what we did in the last video, which is everything from the opening tag to the closing tag. Now, where this gets a little tricky is I told you to always make sure you open and close your tags, but sometimes there's more than just the content that can go between those two tags. And that's what's known as a nested HTML element, or one example of that type of complexity. So you notice here that we have our opening HTML tag, but notice that it's not closed right afterwards. It's closed down here. So all of this is nested inside of it. Furthermore, the body tag opens here and doesn't close until here. So this stuff here is nested inside of it. So we're going to go back to Dreamweaver and we're going to do the typical, now this, I'm not making this up, this is something you see very often. So I just hit the return key and then hit the tab key. And I am going to put in head here. And then I'm going to close the head. Then I'm going to hit return. And I'm going to do body. And then I am going to, with the help of Dreamweaver, close body. This is a very typical structure that you'll see. The reason that I indent it is indenting helps you understand that things are nested. Now, a very typical thing that happens in web design is that you have the head, and it's named head and body because it kind of resembles a person, and that the head is mostly like thinking stuff that you don't see on the page itself, and the body is stuff that you see on the page. So one of the things that happens in the head, and again I'm going to hit tab because this is nested inside the head, is what's known as the title. And the title, very important thing in web design. I'm going to go ahead and close that. And then I'm going to go ahead and close the title itself. Now notice I closed it on the same line, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a second. But what I want to do is show you what the title is used for. And so I'm just going to say my homepage. Now I'm going to go ahead, save this, and you'll notice that we have our site defined from the previous video. That's saved in here. And now I'm going to do something that's very common function, and that is previewing your site in a browser. So you just go up to File, Preview in Browser, pick the browser that's loaded on your system that you want to check it in. It'll open up that browser, and there will be your page. Now, we don't have anything on the page yet to see visibly, but in most browsers, in fact, I'm going to go Command T to make a tab here, so you have a tabbing system. The tab will be named with the name of your page, and that's what you put inside of those title tags over here. Now there'll be more stuff inside the head later, but just keep in mind that that's stuff that you don't necessarily see on the page per se. Like even this is not on the page, it's just the name of the page that would show inside of a tab or similar. Now in the body, that's where all the stuff that we can read shows. So let's look at the example of our website and go ahead and start to populate that with something. So if I go back to this website here and I say, okay, the first thing that shows up here is the name, be your name in first all HTML website. So I'm just going to copy that, paste that, or yeah, and then so I can paste it. So I just swiped across, did Command C to copy, then I'll go back into Dreamweaver, and inside the body here, again, I'm going to tab in so that I get this nice kind of structure that shows me what things are nested. That, because of its size, I'm going to guess is going to be an H1 tag. So I'm going to make an H1 tag. I'm going to close it before I have the chance to forget, and then I'm going to back up, and in between the opening and closing tags, I'm going to paste that in there. And you can see it updated automatically for me. If it didn't for you, you can just refresh. And here again, you could go out and you could say File and Preview in Browser, pick a browser. It always asks you to save it before you preview it in the browser. And then you can see there is the content that you have on the page, and also because of what you did in the title tags, it says My Home Page. And if you wanted to change this, then the next time you look at it, it will be updated to that change. Okay, so back on the grade sheet here, I'm going to kind of skip over this stuff for now and then concentrate just on this main page. So the site will contain 3 pages. One is the main page that we're working on right now. It'll have an image that looks like you now, and we'll get to that in a minute. It'll start out with your name, colon, my first all HTML website. And then it'll include the headings about this site and about me. So let's go ahead and take care of that. So first thing you would do is replace this with your name, and then, and I don't mind if you do this copy and paste, or you can do it all by hand. But you would then set up your next H tags. And if you look at the example of the website, you can see that this headline is much bigger than these. So probably a natural assumption would be that this is an H1 tag and that these would be H2 tags. And then you have yet another one, and that's probably an H3 tag. But if you're not sure, you just experiment a little bit with them. So let's go ahead and give all this stuff a whirl here. So we're going to set up H2, close it before we have a chance to forget, do the same thing again for another. And this is definitely not a bad way to work, is put your tags in first and populate them. You have the least chance of screwing something up working this way. And then we can just simply go out to the website and copy and paste. So we've got about this site and then about me. So I'm just pasting that in there. So I've pasted and or typed the other information here in the other tags. And as you can see, Dreamweaver's already given me a preview of what it looks like. I can also go to File, Preview in the browser and save, and you can see that the website's starting to take shape. And just wanted to show you here back in the W3 schools under HTML tutorial, HTML introduction, about halfway down the page, there's this nice little diagram of what we're doing here, and it shows that nesting. So we have the head and the body nested inside of the HTML tags, and then we have a nested tag, which is the title inside the head, and all these different tags here are nested in the body, which is what we're working on right now. And you notice that sometimes the element is written this way, where it's all in line, and sometimes it's written in more of a block format. And you'll kind of get used to what is done which way. And as we go through, I'll do it, in the best practice. But spaces are ignored in HTML, so none of that really matters. In fact, your HTML could be all scrunched together, but it obviously makes more sense and is easier to work if we write it this way, where things are indented and laid out, and just like kind of what people come to expect. The next thing I'm going to do is populate this, 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 and this. I'm going to save this, which is known as an ordered list, for the next video because it's a little more complicated. But basically what you have is these H tags, which we've already taken care of, and then this content is just inside of the basic paragraph tag. So that would look something like this. So right underneath about this site, we have something that goes a little bit like this. So here's an opening paragraph tag, and then a closing one. I'm going to put some content in there. You should note what the paragraph tag does is it puts a space between anything that's wrapped in the paragraph tag. So this is one, this is one, this is one, this is one. And watch, if I resize the browser, you get a little bit better idea of what's happening here. So these are allowed to reflow, but it always keeps that space in between the paragraphs. And back in Dreamweaver, so far I have this paragraph put in, so let me go ahead and put the others. Okay, so I now have those 4 paragraphs put in and in the appropriate places. So here's the first 2 after the About This Site headline tag, and then after About Me, there's 2 more paragraphs. Now keep in mind, you're responsible for the content of this. I want to learn about graphic design because, and then you get rid of all this and type in what we want to learn about you. And then right here, my choice for the Pandora radio station is, and then you'll put the name of your band, and in the next video I'll show you how to get that to look italicized like you see. But for now, let's go ahead and do a file save and then a file preview in browser and see that this thing is coming together. There's the only thing really left to do is the italic.